Okay, so today we're going to talk about restoring proper breathing mechanics, and as related to hiatal hernia, acid reflux, Gerd, and silent reflux. This is actually one of the most common questions that I get asked about by students, and one of the most common symptoms. And a lot of the students in the course, this is your primary symptom or one of your only symptoms, is difficulty breathing. So I thought we could talk specifically about that subject. And after watching this lesson, of course, post your questions below the video in the student forum if you're a current student, and you can ask more questions about your specific issue and what you're observing in your posture and in your body. So unfortunately, there is not a universal formula. Again, there's not really a universal formula that I could say, do A plus, B will definitely equal C, because everybody's body is unique. And so what I need for you to do is to do an inventory of your body, is to explore your body, is to use your own awareness around your body. I'm a yoga instructor, massage therapist, Ayurvedic practitioner who's been in practice for 15 years, and I love to study anatomy. So obviously, I'm going to have a different experiential lens and awareness than you might, because you might be totally new to all of these things, and maybe you never really thought about what's going on in your body to the extent that you could influence its function. And so I have, some awareness around that, that your experience may be much more limited than mine is in this regard. But what I can do is I can start to provide you with a starting point and foundation that can make a really, really big difference in your experience. That said, it may be helpful to work with somebody in your area that could give you hands-on work. And that might be able to, tune into things that they observe in your body that you may not be aware of. I know that when I have had clients at my center in Hamza, I could observe many things in their body, but I would still equip them with education and information that was invaluable in our work together, that required them to be participating in the process through the cultivation of their awareness, through the cultivation of observing their body's function, and through learning about, anatomy and posture and things like that. So you still need to be involved in the process. It's not like you can just, go to somebody and lay on the table and expect them to fix you. And then just walk out the door. So what I want to do, that might be difficult for you to find a practitioner that will provide you with the awareness, the knowledge to be doing the level of participation that I believe is necessary for you to do to get the kind of result that you want. So in today's session, what I want to do is I want to provide you with that information to help you. I also want to say that we've been seeing a lot of great results with the students that have been taking the class. And if you experience benefit from the exercises or the practices, if you would please let me know. It's really, really helpful for me. It gives me more confidence in the course. I had somebody post in a comment that I posted on my personal Facebook page yesterday, and I wanted to share with you what they said. It's really up here in my scroll. Anyways, it gives me confidence in the course. I never want to be enrolling people into programs that it's definitely, that I'm not 100% confident is going to help them. And I can't make a huge promise and say that every single person in the world who does this course is going to, and experience 100% alleviation of their issue. I can never tell somebody, you're going to be cured. I don't think anybody could say that, whether it's a medication or a surgery or whatever it is. But as far as natural methods go, and as far as, seeing results from natural methods, we're doing a really good job in this course. So I really want to encourage you to do the practices and to let me know when you experience benefit. Because sometimes I get emails or something for somebody that's they say, I took your course 2 years ago and I experienced 100% alleviation. My digestive issue is completely gone. Yeah, that feels good emotionally, but it also gives me more confidence in getting the word out about the course and how it could help people. So Arnico wrote on my Facebook page, I follow, respect, and support Monica's work completely because only following her practical teachings, I finally got to control my Gerd problems after 2 years of suffering from it. After reading one book, after following strange, useless diets, after seeing 4 different gastroenterologists, after taking a lot of medications for a long period of time. This is what I call helping people. So I wanted to share that with you too. And these testimonials are coming in all the time. And at the end of the course, I include a survey to get your honest feedback about the course. And we are seeing on average about a 70% reduction of symptoms in the 4-week course alone. And if you continue to do the practices after the course is over, you can expect that your symptoms will continue to get better. And also the other additional benefits of this course in the program, where we're addressing mindset and stress management and emotional processing. And so your feedback is invaluable. Telling me when something's working for you is extremely helpful. Okay, so excuse me. As I said, unfortunately, there's not going to be a universal formula that I can offer that will help you to resolve your breathing mechanic issues. But that doesn't mean that we can't, in the exploration together of posture and breathing, not produce some super amazing results. It just means that the application and the approach needs to be tailored for you individually. All right, let's jump into it. What affects breathing to begin with? What actually affects breathing to begin with? Emotions and mind affects breathing. Anxiety affects breathing. So I think we should start with that and how to approach that to begin with. A lot of times people are not aware of the fact that the emotions that they feel have been mostly conditioned by their past experiences. And without that awareness, what we try to do is change the external triggers in our life. We try to, or we blame the external triggers in our life for how we feel. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, for example, and in my private coaching business, I work with entrepreneurs, and there are certain stressors that they face. And they often hold the state of their business or what's going on with their business or the pressures in their business responsible for how they feel. But with further investigation, what you usually find is that the feelings that are being felt have been felt for a long period of time. And what's really happening is it's not the external triggers in your life that are making you feel the anxiety. It's that you have anxiety in you. You have the unprocessed emotion of anxiety in you that has been building up from all of your previous experiences, your identifications, your traumas, your stressors, that now when a certain external trigger comes into your life, you use that trigger as a target, for you to project the feeling that exists inside of you that's already there. And you hold that external trigger responsible for how you feel. For example, somebody wrote to me the other day on one of my Facebook platforms asking me what I could do to help them with their insecurity and their shyness. They said, what can you do for insecurity and shyness? And, my response to that would be, everybody is insecure and everybody's shy. I'm insecure and shy. I have parts of myself that I feel insecure about. I have parts of myself that I'm shy about, that I wouldn't, just share publicly with the world. And I think any person that is even the most outwardly confident person in the world has parts of them that are insecure and shy. So it's not really about being insecure or shy, because I feel, comfortable around the fact that I have insecure and shyness. but it's for this particular person, it's the fear that they feel in response to their shyness or their insecurity. So in that case, the stress trigger is internal, and you can have external stress triggers and you can have internal stress triggers. An external stress trigger would be like you almost got into a car accident, right? An internal stress trigger would be a thought or a belief that you have. And so for this particular person, the internal stress trigger is insecurity and shyness. And so when they're in situations where they feel insecurity or shyness arising, their response to that is to feel fear. So where that becomes misguided is that they're blaming their insecurity and shyness for their emotional state of feeling fear. And so what needs to happen is that you need to process that feeling of fear. And when you process the feeling, the attachment to the trigger will detach, so the emotion has nowhere else to project itself from. Another example, I was just learning about somebody who is they just moved into a new home, and they're super, super stressed out about finding this furniture and getting the things fixed and, doing all the stuff around their house. And, why did they move? Now they're in like a new neighborhood. They don't know anybody. How are they going to make friends? So what are the external triggers in that situation? The external triggers is the new home, is the not knowing anybody, is the, having to buy furniture, is the emotion of the anxiety, though, was probably already in that person for a long period of time. They just use different external factors in their life as markers of projection. When you have a breathing issue, so it's all coming together, when you have a breathing issue, when you have any health issue whatsoever, you have to look at those things. You have to look at your mind and your emotions, because whatever disease manifests in your body happened because of multiple factors. You could have had, an environmental exposure, a toxic exposure. You could have been on a bad diet for a long period of time. You could have been living a sedentary lifestyle. You could have gotten into, some kind of injury. But more than 98% of the time, there was some involvement of your mind and your emotions. And so what I need for you to do is for you to pay attention to that, is to pay attention to how you feel, on a regular basis. And instead of falling into the trap, which is what most human beings do, is to try to maneuver and change the external factors in their life to make them feel better, to get a new job, to break up a relationship, or to try to change the person you're in relationship with. Whatever it is that you're blaming your environment for how you feel, it's to really first ask yourself, have I felt this way before? What is this feeling? How old is this feeling? And these thought processes. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just moved into a neighborhood and I feel stuck here, and I feel, these different emotions, but I also recognize that I was always, super anxious around my child and worried about them and their health or whatever. Just notice if the feeling that you feel is old, if it's something that you felt before. And then you have to go to process the emotions and the feelings. And we'll have a specific workshop on that at a future point. But to begin with, it actually is not that hard to explain, but it takes consistent practice to do. And so when you process your emotion, what you want to do is not fight it, not react to it, not avoid it, but actually just let yourself feel it and let it go. So our emotions function on a neurological cycle. They have a beginning, they have a middle, they have an end. They're actually neurological processes in the body. Some emotions are conscious, some emotions are unconscious. And so when you want to process an emotion, it's just literally allowing it to process it. So most of the time when we have a feeling that we don't like, we react and we try to get out of it somehow. So some of us get out of it by going to an emotion or feeling that feels more comfortable to us. So some people feel more comfortable in the emotion of anger, for example. So instead of feeling grief or loss or fear or sadness or anxiety, they get angry. Angry feels better to them. But they're suppressing the fear and they're suppressing the anxiety. Or some people start to fawn and they start to people please because thinking about the other person would be easier for them to feel their anger, right? So there's different ways that we can avoid and suppress our emotions and our feelings. Or some people may just totally avoid it, just not look at it at all. Some people project it onto other people. So they see the emotions that they feel in other people. Or some people jump on the phone and talk about it, and they rehash it, with a friend thinking, oh, I just got to talk this out. But actually talking out an emotion and a feeling, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, do it, because on some level it can be helpful, but it doesn't fully help you process the emotion and the feeling. The way to process an emotion and a feeling is to literally just let yourself feel it. So you feel fear rising, and instead of running from it, you just let yourself feel it, feel where it is in your body, breathe, and you just let it go. Now, when I say let it go, it may sound, esoteric, or it may sound abstract. There's the word. But when you continue to do this practice of letting go, it will become more familiar. And more than that, you will see the benefit of your life. You will become less reactive. You will become more clear seeing. When you see other people reacting to you, you won't take it personally. You'll be able to see that other people's emotional reactions have less to do with you than prior to doing this type of work. You may have thought you may react to another person's emotional reaction, but now you know that their emotional reaction doesn't have anything to do with you. It's their unprocessed stuff that they're projecting onto you. And so by doing this kind of work and processing your emotions, you're able to see reality more clearly. You're able to see people more clearly. You're able to see yourself more clearly. Disease resonates at the emotions of the lower vibrational scale. Okay. So disease and physical imbalance in the body resonates with things like anger, fear, rejection, guilt, etc. And health and wellness resonates with emotions on the higher vibrational scale. But that said, you cannot get to the higher vibrational scale authentically and legitimately, which is, joy, happiness, gratitude, without processing those emotions. So suppressing them isn't going to actually really get you there. And this isn't about shaming you. This isn't about, anything. I mean, all emotions, there are no emotions or feelings that are wrong or bad. They all serve a purpose. Anger, for example, which a lot of people feel guilt around, is actually a mobilizer, so it can get you out of emotions that are even lower than that, which would be shame and guilt and self-hatred. It can be anger that gets you to the mobilizing, to get you to courage and gets you to emotions that are on the higher vibrational scale. But that said, you don't want to be living in anger, that has many different, you don't want to get stuck there, which you get stuck in anger when you haven't processed the anger. So with breathing, it's really important that you process your emotions. Also, you could be using breathing as a justification for an emotion that you're feeling. So, I mean, what is breathing? What is not being able to breathe? I mean, it's suffocation. It's one of the most fear-ridden, things that a person could experience. Your life force is being taken away from you. You're literally being suffocated. I can't breathe. That's a very fear-ridden experience. So are you, and I can't answer this for you, and this is just a place of exploration and self-inventory. Fear, what is your relationship with fear? Are there things that you're afraid of in your life that you could be using the not being able to breathe as that target, to project that emotion and that feeling of fear on? And so outside of not being able to breathe, when it is actually happening, is that importance, again, of processing your emotions and your feelings at all times in your daily life. Okay, so we talked about mind and emotions. Now we're going to talk about some of the physical mechanics when it comes to breathing and looking at your overall posture and assessing your posture. So right now, I just want you to just sit easy with your feet, on the floor, okay? And put your hands on your knees. And I just want you to breathe now, just easily, don't force it. Don't try to control it. Don't try to breathe in a certain way that you think is right or wrong, but just breathe like how you normally would. And notice where you breathe. Are you breathing more in your low belly? Are you more of a chest breather? Are you more of a shallow chest breather where you're breathing up here? Or is your breath low in your belly? So I'm just going to give you a minute to do that. Okay, now open your eyes and I'm going to show you some pictures of the lungs. The lungs take up a lot of space in the body. And, most of us don't breathe into the full capacity of our lung space, right? And a lot of times people who believe, that have been practicing yoga and start to do low belly breathing, they're actually still not using the full capacity of their lungs. They've just learned how to mechanically expand their belly and contract their belly with their breathing, which is a yogic breathing technique, but they're still not using the full capacity of their lungs. And so you need to, do some breathing practices that help you to use the full capacity of your lungs. And you've learned some of those practices in the course. Proper breathing can also help with regulating and relaxing your nervous system. So that can help you with processing the emotions, or if you're stuck in fight or flight, it can help you to calm down. And so that needs to be done preventatively, not necessarily in response to when you're having an episode, but a daily breathing practice. One really easy breathing practice to do is just to simply close your eyes and focus on using the full capacity of your lung space, which is going to be from here to here, front and back. So you're expanding the entire upper chest and upper back region. Okay. And then the other key player is, of course, the psoas, which we talk about so much in this course. So I want to show you that picture. Okay. So you've got the diaphragm, which is that parachute-like muscle that's underneath your lungs and plays a huge key role in the respiration and inspiration of your lung capacity. And then you have the psoas muscle. On the top of the psoas, it sort of inserts into the diaphragm, and then how that's connected to your leg and how that's connected to your pelvis. Okay. So the psoas is a muscle that's also called the fight or flight muscle. And the reason for that is because when we are underneath chronic stress and anxiety and fear, which again is the reason why it's so important for you to process your emotions and your feelings, that muscle becomes hyper contracted. When that muscle becomes so hyper contracted, it starts to tighten up. And when it starts to tighten up, it can start to pull down on the diaphragm. So it constantly is pulling down on the diaphragm. And then when your diaphragm, and just like any muscle that's overstretched, or when it's pulled down, or when it, is stretched out of alignment for a long period of time, it's going to start to spasm, right? It's going to start to hypercontract. And when it starts to hypercontract for a long period of time, then you're going to start to see trigger points. And so trigger points in the diaphragm, which trigger point is a hypercontracted muscle fibers in certain areas that can happen anywhere in the body. And when they happen in the diaphragm, it can create constricted breathing. So now can you see how this is all connected? Your mind, your emotions, you're in chronic fight or flight, or you're in a chronically fear-ridden state all the time. How that's going to impact your psoas by creating hypercontraction, shortening of the psoas, or sometimes a person's psoas can become long on one side and short on the other, which is going to be constantly tugging on the diaphragm, which is going to contribute to trigger points that will develop in the area, which will then make it difficult and lead to breathing dysfunction. So you do need to work on things physically, but then also mentally and emotionally as well. So I want to teach you some trigger points that are in the diaphragm, in the psoas, that you can deactivate yourself through a home practice. So I'm going to show you another picture now. Okay, so these are the common trigger points that create dysfunction in the diaphragm. You've got them here that are along, just below the collarbone, here to here. So now what I want you to do is just take your fingers and feel underneath your collarbone to the shoulder, around the shoulder area, and just notice a trigger point. When you find one, will feel like a little tiny bruise. And so what trigger points do, and just continue to massage while I'm talking, and spend some time on one shoulder, then move to the other side underneath the collarbone, and just notice what that feels like. And so what it will do is it can create dysfunction in many areas of the body where the trigger point even isn't at. Okay, so you could have a trigger point in your neck here, but you experience chronic headaches. Okay, or you could have a trigger point in the middle of your back, but experience it in the front of your body. So that's the interesting thing about these trigger points that happen in the body. And then the big one, which is where I would experience them when I had this issue, is, and sometimes I still have to deactivate them, is underneath the ribs. So I want to show you on myself. If you take your fingers and you can hunch forward, round your shoulders forward, and soften your belly, and take your fingers and you have to put them underneath your ribs. Okay, and so right now I'm lucky I don't have any trigger points right now, which is wonderful. But sometimes, for me, it will still get to feel, really, really sore and bruised underneath there. And so when you are having an episode, where you don't feel like you can breathe, you can use this as a manual treatment. If this is the primary cause and why you can't breathe, is to get under there and start massaging. And if you find, and also here, so I don't have that, but some people do, the trigger points here related to not being able to breathe. And so you can start to massage underneath the rib cage. When you find a bruised point, you're going to want to spend some time working on it. And so what will happen when you massage a trigger point, and there's a couple ways to massage a trigger point, let me say that. So basically what's happening is, this muscle is hyper, contracted. And so if you've ever had like a leg cramp or any kind of cramp, you may have done this to yourself, is, it's either you can massage it out, or you can take a finger and hold it into the center of where that knot, the knot is that many people call it, or that muscle spasm, and it will cause the spasm to release and to relax. So yes, you can get underneath and you can massage, or, you can stick your fingers up and back and hold. It's going to feel more sore, so, and when I'm working those trigger points on myself and I work on them, I'll work on them for a while. It helps me, it opens up my breathing, and this doesn't happen too often to me and much anymore at all. Back when I, started this process, it was very chronic. It was very chronic. But for me now, it happens, maybe once every 2 or 3 months or something like that. Maybe even longer than that. I actually can't even really remember the last time I had it. But right away, if I start working and deactivating these trigger points in the psoas, for me, it opens up right away. And it's working. Okay. So the area will get increasingly sore, and it will feel almost like there's a bruise there for about 1.5 days afterward. So I just want to tell you that that's normal. The other thing to pay attention to is your scalenes. So I'll show you a picture of that. So the scalenes play an important role in breathing mechanics. They help to raise the first rib. Oops. Okay. So they're here, right on the side of your neck here. And so you can massage all the way up and just notice, or even do some side neck stretches. And one way to help a muscle stretch is to hold it down. Just want to make sure you can see me. Is to hold it down while turning your head in the opposite direction. So if I hold it here and then I turn my head, it's going to help me to stretch out. And I mean, when you're first starting, it may just, you may be like, what is the difference between these muscles? I can't feel anything. And I mean, it just takes a little bit of time to develop these, and you don't necessarily need to develop, amazing expert level palpation skills, but literally and simply, if you just put your hand here, slide down while turning your head. You're going to help to stretch the scalenes. Okay. Some things to also take into account is, you know, things that can help with the psoas, I think, is Pilates. You know, so taking a Pilates class can help you, or ongoing Pilates can help to stabilize the pelvis, can help to release the psoas. Working with a knowledgeable chiropractor or somebody that does myofascial tissue release, or a rolfer, somebody who is experienced with, you know, body mechanics, myofascial tissue, and breathing, and is educated, that can help you with some of the hands-on things, can be very helpful while you're on this path and this practice. So I hope that this class helped you today. Please let me know if you have any specific questions, and I'd be happy to answer them. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you.